Welcome to my podcast, Learn Multi-Language with Eureka. Hey guys, today let's look at the 4 most famous Japanese cities and the 4 most famous Japanese airports. So first, let's dive right into Japanese airports, somewhere that you'll definitely be landing if you decide to make a trip there. The first one we have is Narita. Narita Airport is quite actually far away from Tokyo, which is the biggest city. Which is pretty surprising because it's actually the biggest airport, most famous and most international airport in all of Japan. The reason for Narita Airport being so far away from the city is probably because the land price and the land value inside of the city of Tokyo is extremely expensive and it's hard to build an airport there. So next up we have Haneda. Haneda Airport is a great place for foreigners from Asia to go into Japan. This is because a lot of their flights go to Asia and from Asia directly, so there's no layovers, which makes Haneda Kuko a very popular place for people in East Asia to go to when they visit Japan. The third airport we have is Kansai. Kansai Kuko is pretty explanatory because it's in Osaka, which is one of Japan's most famous cities. The last one here we have is Chubu Kuko. Chubu Kuko is actually in the middle of these 3 airports. Narita is on the eastern part, and Kansai Kuko is on the western part. So Chubu is perfectly in the middle. It's also located in Nagoya City, which we'll get to just in a bit. So next up, we have the most famous 4 Japanese cities. Of course, the most famous one out of all of them is Tokyo. A common mispronunciation of this city is that you sound the O's short. Is that people sound the O's short, but that's actually not the case. You want to elongate every single O that is in the word Tokyo. So, Tokyo. One of the most iconic places to visit in Tokyo is Tokyo Tower. It has a very long history and has loads of entertainment if you ever want to go there. Next up we have Kyoto. You should also be careful about this city's pronunciation because the O here is elongated in the first O, but is very short in the second O. So for example, Kyoto. Kyoto. Some people mispronounce it as Kyoto or other combinations that I have never heard of. Kyoto City was actually inspired by China. Some of their buildings are directly influenced from China. Specifically, the city of Xi'an. Isn't that pretty cool? Not only is Japan's characters influenced from China, but also its cities and buildings. Just to clarify, when Japan brought over the Chinese architecture into their own cities, the city was called Chang'an back then, not Xi'an. The name changed after they brought it back into Japan. The modern name is called Xi'an. For the third city, we have Osaka. Now, a very common mispronunciation that I hear is Osaka, which is very Americanized. Understandable, but always remember that the O in Osaka is elongated. A really iconic place in Osaka is Dotonbori. It's basically like downtown, but really, really bright. They have a lot of what Japan calls neon sign, or billboards. Most notably, we have the Guriko logo displayed as the biggest one out of all of the neon sign. The last one we have is Nagoya. Now, although I've told you guys that the O's in the last 3 are all elongated, the Nagoya is not elongated. You just say it normally. So, once again, Nagoya. Remember when I told you guys that the Chubu Kuko was in Nagoya? Well, this is the place. Well, it's not the airport, but it's one of also the most iconic images of Nagoya. So in summary, Japanese cities have a lot of unique qualities, and their pronunciations are also unique. Remember what I've told you. Some letters, the O's, are elongated and some O's are not. With that information, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode with 4 of the most famous Japanese airports and 4 of the most famous Japanese cities. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Hope to see you in the next one. Find me on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and on my website. Thanks for listening.